Welcome back into Studio 10. Rocket Motivation is a podcast that's inspiring others to overcome life-changing obstacles. It's the creation of Mobile's Cate, who has overcome some incredible challenges of his own. Rod, we're so excited to talk to you here this morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Well, it's great to be here, and thanks for the opportunity.
So for the folks who aren't familiar with your story, I feel like we need to start there. Let's give a little bit of background info.
Okay, quick background. Well, I'm 54 years old. I'm a lawyer in Mobile. Been practicing for, I think, about 29 years now. When I was 15 years old, back in 1981, I broke my neck playing high school football. Was paralyzed from the neck down. Was fortunate after a few months to be able to got some movement to walk again, but I've lived with significant paralysis since I was 15. So that's the backstory.
And when people look at life and the avenues and the different roads they can go down and take, your path led you to success as a lawyer, and you were able to overcome this through a lot of hard work and perseverance. And so the first thing you did was you wrote this book about it. I see your book there.
I did.
Tell me about that book.
So a couple years ago, I wrote this book called Get Back Up, and it's the story of my journey. And the reason I wanted to write it was because I think I have a motivational, inspirational story, which is kind of hard to say about yourself, but it was I really enjoyed writing the book, and it's a pretty hard hitting. I don't candy coat what it's like to be paralyzed, what you go through, the rehab, and then living life, as a physically disabled person. Where before this, I was a pretty good athlete, and things couldn't have been really going better in my life, and then all of a sudden, boom. It's completely different.
Well, I think it's okay to say that you're motivational and inspirational, A, because you are, and B, because people need some of that nowadays with everything that's been happening over the past year, and you can add hurricanes on top of it to it here locally. So lots of stuff is going on now. This is a great listen. Let's talk about the podcast, how you got started with that, and where folks can hear it and all that good stuff.
Okay, so the podcast is called Rocket Motivation. And I do it locally. My producer is a guy named Johnny Gwynn at Deep Fried Studios, and he does a wonderful job. But what the podcast is about is, the first episode, of course, I just talk about me and setting up the podcast. But what I do is, so instead of having to talk about me all the time like I did in my book, I interview other people that have gone through adversity. The stories are just incredible. I got anywhere from someone who's a local woman who's lost her husband and son in a hunting camp fire years ago, and how she's dealt with that.
Wow.
I've got somebody a kid who was in college who was in a horrible car wreck, no fault of his own, that ended up losing his right leg, and how he's come from that. One of my favorite stories on there is a friend of mine in town she's a lawyer who, when she was in high school, got pregnant in her senior year of high school, got married, had another kid. By age 23, she was divorced, living in a single-wide trailer. Well, by age 36, she graduates from University of Alabama Law School, and she's been a lawyer ever since. So the stories are so varied and inspirational to me. I'm lucky to be able to interview these people. But what I ask every one of them is, what advice do you give to the listeners when you're facing tough times? How do you get through it?
Yeah.
And so what I think so great about the podcast is, for people that are out there going through some tough times, it gives them solid, concrete examples of people that have gone through adversity and have overcome it.
Who have got through it. Well, that is great. Take a look at your screen there. You see Rocket Motivation with Cate. I wish we had enough time, such as, say, a podcast, to ask you more questions, but we don't in a quick TV segment. Yeah. If you want to explore further podcast style, how do they listen to Rocket Motivation?
Yeah, I'm on Spotify, iTunes, anywhere you listen to podcasts. If you Google Rocket Motivation, it'll come up. My website, you can listen to all the episodes for free on there.
Well, it sounds like a great and inspiring podcast, the stories of overcoming. You definitely don't want to miss this. Rod, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We can all use some inspiration and motivation right now. Chelsea, sounds like a great listen. Going to have to check it out.
Yeah.